Alright, here we are, day 58 of the 100 Days of Narration Challenge, and we are on Stefan Gagne week, or Pixelscapes week, one of the two, whichever one. I'm probably just going to keep saying that until we reach the end of the week when I finally decide which one I'm going to use, but then by that time it'll be too late, but whatever. Whatever. This is my 100 Days of Narration Challenge, and I'll do whatever I want. Anyway, today's book, or, well, sort of book, is going to be, I'm going to be reading from Slayer's Chaos, the first chapter of Slayer's Chaos, which is actually the second book of the Slayer's trilogy written by Stefan Gagne. And, yeah, that's, why did I choose the second book? Well, it just seems, it's, I don't know. I think the opening is a little bit more interesting in the second rather than the first one, but we'll see from here. Now, what's this all about, apart from being a fanfic of Slayers? Do you kids know what Slayers is? Do you know what, Slayers, there's this magician girl, she has red hair, and then there's this swordsman guy named Gagne, and the wizard girl's named Lena Inverse. You guys probably don't know it. You guys probably don't know what Slayers is. You guys are into your Naritos and your bleaches and your I don't know. I don't know what kids are into these days in the animus and the anime and the mangas, the stuff. So I don't know. But anyway, there's a blurb here for the Slayer's trilogy fanfiction that he got here. The first and arguably the best work in Slayers to date. What starts as a simple quest to find some long-lost magic eventually steamrolls into a battle for the fate of the world, digging deep into the backstory of Slayers, which I mostly made up as I went along, so canon twonks need not apply. Won a few awards. Also pioneered my preferred writing method, using the web to publish HTMLized stories as I write them, so I can collect suggestions and comments as I go. Move the fanfic experience from dry, finalized ASCII in an email to a living, breathing website with a small community of readers. So, yeah. And that's, I think, still going on with his current original novel works stuffs. So, that's great that an author does that on the internet. So let's have a look at Slayer's Chaos. So yeah, Slayer's Chaos, the first chapter. Sorry, I had a bit of a brain fart there for no reason whatsoever. So yeah, Slayer's Chaos number 1. In which great omens and portents fail to scare us, our heroine reads a good book, we meet an old friend, and much confusion is had by all. By Stefan Gagne of Spoof Chase Productions. That's right, that's his name, Spoof Chase Productions. I wonder if he's still using that. I'm not sure. Who knows? Once upon a time in fair Saloon, there was a sorceress. Let's call her Lena. Lena was known across the land for a variety of reasons. She was a famous bandit hunter, magic slinger, world saver, and consumer of large dinners. With no fixed address, she wandered the world doing random quests and getting into surprising amounts of trouble. In recent times, her and her usual gang of cohorts managed to find a lost power, unearth a deadly danger from beyond space and time, and save the world from it, all in the span of a few weeks. That's just the sort of person Lena was. Always active, always leading an exciting life, randomly moving from situation to situation. She was like a monster reincarnation of some hero long ago, a girl on the move, just lucky enough to be totally confident. Then she stopped moving. And then there's a little bit of a paragraph break here. And we get into the meat of the story. One of the main things an open-air market needs, besides customers at any rate, is nice weather. Keeping track of this is the job of the royal astrologer in most countries, but the one Saloon had employed tended to stay indoors a lot, and thus his forecasts tended to consist of humidity and air quality rather than, for example, rain. Fortunately, the office had changed hands in recent days to someone more competent and technically inclined. With him came a miraculous new machine that could predicted, I think it's meant to be just predict, that could predict the weather with 90% accuracy. In the daily press, newspapers would now include a little box where you could read the weather for the next 3 days. Much to the relief of the managers of the annual Saloon Magician's Market, the weather was scheduled to be partly cloudy, with no chance of rain today, and the event was on. In previous years, the Magician's Market was held indoors, proving to be a horrible mistake and a financial disaster, as having an enclosed space with that many sorcerers around trying new purchases usually results in a fire that takes 2 days for the royal firefighters to get under control. Nowadays, strict rules are posted not to use any products purchased unless you're at least 20 miles away from the city, which, in a very long way of explaining it, is why Lina Inverse was suspicious of the new sword she was buying. "Throws fireballs, huh?" she said, not believing a word of it as she tested the blade for balance and grip. "Very large ones," the proprietor said, waving his arms wide to demonstrate that, hey, those were some big fireballs, I kid you not. "Why, just last week, my cousin Nigel managed to vaporize a whole horde of bandits using this sword alone, and no formal training in magical arts. It's user-friendly and has a convenient interface, and you did say you liked the design." The young sorceress twisted her wrist, examining the hilt of the blade. A very elegant brass design in the shape of a butterfly. Butterflies had been on her mind a lot lately, now that she thought about it, since she did think of it often. And I screwed that one up. Butterflies had been on her mind a lot lately, now that she thought of it, since she did think of it often. "Well," said Lina. Lina said, holstering the weapon, "the design's nice, it's a good weight for my class, and I can tell it's got a good deflection ability. Plenty sharp, too." "Exactly," the merchant smiled. "A rare product, worth 20 gold pieces, yes?" "I'll give you 5 gold for it." 5? Why, such a fine blade of distinct quality is worth 18 at least." "I think 5 sounds a bit right." 15 then?" 5. Miss, you're supposed to be haggling towards a midpoint," the merchant reminded her, not sure if this customer really understood proper business. "Why bother when you're trying to trick me?" Lina asked, already removing her old battered sword and attaching the new one to her belt. The deal was done, in her opinion. But the merchant was aghast. "Aghastedly," he protested. "Trick? You know, it takes a lot of experience to detect magical enchantments, much less..." It takes a lot of experience to detect weapon enchantments, much less what type of enchantment, Lina explained. "And I may be young, but I can tell the difference between a cheap light spell and a gigantic bandit-melting fireball lobber. I'd say 5 is a bargain for a basically ordinary sword plus the promise to give you an hour's head start before I casually inform anybody else that you've sold these things to what they really bought, making them want to test your wonderful product." Sorry, damn it, I screwed up that line. It's a very long sentence, but it's a fun sentence too. That's the worst, when it's a fun, long sentence, but you can't get it quite right. Let's try that one again. "I'd say 5 is a bargain for a basically ordinary sword plus the promise to give you an hour's head start before I casually inform anybody else you've sold these things to what they've really bought. These things to what you've sold these things to what they really bought, making them want to test your wonderful product out in your person firsthand to make sure. Yes? Damn it. That's a roller coaster of a sentence. Try that one again. I'd say 5 is a bargain for a basically ordinary sword, plus the promise to give you an hour's head start before I casually inform anybody else you've sold these things to what they really bought, making them want to test your wonderful product out on your person firsthand to make sure. Yes? 5. The merchant agreed, taking the coins from Lena-san, pulling the shade down in front of his stall, and packing everything up and hitting the road, setting a land-ground speed record in the process. Setting a land-ground speed record in the process. Yeah, this would go better if my throat wasn't so congested. Yeah, that's not getting out there. Nasty, perhaps, but Lena smiled smugly nonetheless. It was a feel-good moment in an otherwise dull month. Her old sword wasn't a bad sword. She had been using it for a couple of years now, from when she first set out to make a name for herself as a bandit hunter. Technically, she was more of a magic-wielding bandit killer than a sword-wielding bandit killer, but lately had been relying on magic a little bit too much. Damn it. Technically, she was more of a magic-wielding bandit killer than a sword-wielding bandit killer, but lately had actually been relying on magic a bit much. Maybe a bit too much. Not that she couldn't hold her own with magic, she did just fine by it, really, but having a good sword was a confidence booster, she figured. There was something relieving about having a nice, sharp bit of metal around. Her usual sharp bit of metal wandered up, carrying a huge bale of cotton candy in one hand and a bag full of souvenirs and useless crap in the other. "Hey, Lena, I got you some candy," he said, handing the pink wad of bento doom to Lena, who staggered under the weight. "And look, I got a magical stand with a bunch of wooden frogs in it, with little musical instruments that plays when it hears a noise." Gowrie was not an expert shopper. If it attracted the eye and fascinated him for more than 30 seconds, chances were he'd buy it regardless of what it was. This being their second day of visiting the market, merchants seeking to offload whatever they couldn't ship were actively seeking Gowrie out. Lena briefly wondered how much money they had left. "That's nice, Gowrie," she said, taking a nip of the candy, her brain locking momentarily in a sugar overdose. Yikes. Taking a nip off the candy, her brain locking momentarily in a sugar overdose. "I think I've bought about everything I want to for today. Ready to go back?" Gowrie's face fell. "What? Already?" "Come on, Gowrie, it's been what, 3 hours?" "But the food court! We should at least visit the food court. I hear they have dishes from around the world. I could go for a Oh, wow. Okay. Go for a Testabornian imploding onion. Testabornian imploding onion. That's an interesting thing. Testabornian. 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 Is that an in-joke? I think that's an in-joke that I'm not getting, obviously. "I'm not really that hungry," Lena said, turning and starting to head for the marked exit. Turning and starting to head for the marked exits. Marked exits. Yuck. Yeah. Blah. Sorry. Lots of burping. My apologies. Gowrie continued his protest, following along. "You know, we don't go out very often these days. I mean, Amelia's castle is really interesting, and they have a pretty cool army training ground, but shouldn't we be, questing or something?" Gowrie said. "Zogatus already left because he wanted to keep looking for a cure for his chimeraness. Chimeraness. For his chimeraness. And Naga's been thinking about going off again." "Why do we always have to be out and about looking for magic and artifacts in danger?" Lena asked, turning to face Gowrie. "What's so bad about sitting down for a while? After our last disaster, you'd think you'd be more interested in relaxing." "Disaster? We saved the world." "We did save the world, right?" "That's not what I meant," Lena said, and gave up. "We'll talk about this later, Gowrie." All I have in mind right now is heading back to our palace quarters, relaxing and reading, okay? Not wanting to make Lina upset, Gauri nodded suddenly. Satisfied, Lina nodded as well and resumed walking past rows of stalls. Right, Gauri, the last thing I want to get is involved in another "Beware the fortnight of chaos." Lina stopped dead in her tracks. The withered crone, face hidden inside a dark hooded cloak, beckoned to Lina from between two stalls, one of which was selling realistic simulated animal excrement, and the other selling lamps which supposedly held genies. It wasn't the most ideal place for a soothsayer, but that didn't deter her. "Beware!" the crone screeched. "The fortnight of chaos, Lina Inverse, for if ye does not approach gates left unlocked." No, there's no unland there. "For if ye does not approach gates left locked, ye shall truly be as aimless as ye be. Hark! And beware!" Ordinary people would have been frightened by strange people who know their name proclaiming their doom. Lina was not an ordinary person. She turned to Gauri. "See, that's the sort of thing I mean. Don't you hate it when you're just walking along, minding your own business, and boom! Someone goes and proclaims your destiny and puts you on some journey across the world to deliver a ring to the crack of doom or something?" I don't know. I've never had it happen to me, Gauri said honestly, because he was very honest. "But I guess I'd find it a little annoying unless it was something important." "Ahem," the crone said. "Over here! Didn't you hear what I said? Beware the—" "I heard you the first time," Lina said, walking over to the soothsayer. "I guess if I ask where you heard my name, you'd say Mystic Powers or the Moon or the Lord of Nightmares told you, right?" "How did you guess?" the crone asked in the surprising— Oh, sorry, I should have changed my voice there. "How'd you guess?" the crone asked in a surprisingly young voice before catching herself. "I mean, and ye best beware, Lina." Lina casually yanked the crone's hood back, revealing an ugly but quite youthful girl about her own age. "Oh, come on," Lina said. "You call this white and wizened hair? It's a healthy apple red, and you probably combed it with 100 strokes. Stokes. I hate words with R in the middle. It never comes out right for me. It's a healthy apple red, and you probably combed it with 100 strokes. It's a wig?" Grabbing the crone's chin, Lina yanked. "And this is just makeup. Look at this. It comes right off. Hey! Not even a real wart, just a little sticky one you got from a costume shop too. And why are you having trouble focusing on me like that? Is that some faked squint?" The now quite average-looking young girl's shoulders sunk. Defeatedly pulling out a pair of glasses and putting them on, she looked Lina square in the eye. Okay, so I'm not that good at drama, but I am a soothsayer. And stuff." "Really?" Lina asked, tapping her foot. "Not by trade, but by instance," the girl said. "Anyway, beware, enter the gate. Hark, okay?" Lina turned away from the soothsayer, motioning for Gauri to follow, and marched squarely off. Not a word spoken. "Nay, Lina, who was that anyway?" Gauri asked her. "Nobody," Lina said. "Just some random loon. Come on, let's go home. I'm very serious about finishing that book before the day's done." High above the market, contrary to the miraculous weather prediction system, High above the market, contrary to the miraculous weather prediction system, cloud storms started to form. Okay, and wow, this was written in 1998. I just realized that. Oh my god, 1998. Oh god, 15 years ago. That's a long time. Wow. Yeah, that's a good place to stop actually, because about this point it goes to the next page, quotation marks. So yeah, this would be a good place to stop. But yeah, that was the first chapter. well, part of the first chapter to Slayer's Chaos, the second in the Slayos trilogy. Slayos trilogy. God, I hate it when my vowels do weird things in my mouth. Anyway, second in the Slayos trilogy. And if you wanted to read more, then you can just go to pixelscapes.com. And yeah, by Stefan Gagne. And that was day 58 of the 100 Days of Narration Challenge. And this being Pixelscapes Week, tomorrow will also be another Pixelscapes production. So be sure to come back for that then. Thank you.